Hello, welcome everyone. What's going on? What's going on? You know the drill. Type in chat where you're dialing in from. We'd love to see where everyone's dialing in from. Hopefully this time works for a lot of people in a lot of different time zones. So hoping this works out for a lot of people. As always, the replay will be available after the presentation is over. So if you join a little late, and those for the folks who probably won't hear this now but will later, it's okay. Cool. So, all right, we got some people dialing in.
Oh my gosh.
In Chicago. Okay, Phil's representing Austin. Let's see, you got some New York. What's up, Joshua? Cool. Ooh, Johannesburg. Okay. All right. Seattle, Wisconsin, Madrid, Brooklyn. All right, Brooklyn in the house. UK, Holland. Okay, so this seems like this is like the best time for literally everyone. So
yeah,
I'm hoping the information that we got today is going to be super helpful. I personally think it is. I know Phil thinks it is as well. So we're going to get started in probably about another minute. We did have a lot of people register for this event, so just want to give some folks time to join on in. So again, if you're just now dialing in, let us know where you're calling in from. This is a worldwide event, as I can say now. So again, let us know.
Wow, this is wild. We're getting Vietnam, Minneapolis, Philippines, London, UK, SoCal, Holland, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, literally all over the place, man.
Yeah, so Miami. Cool. Neat representing from Miami. I see you. Wayne from Vancouver. All right.
So cool.
Cool. Wow. All right. Well, yo, let's get this popping. I know everyone is, super duper working hard. And I appreciate everyone taking the time out their day to view this training. So we're gonna get right into it. So this is a live training on e-commerce packaging. And today we're talking about an innovative solution to brand awareness. A lot of people typically think about social media and whatnot, but we're gonna put a little spin on it today and actually show how e-commerce packaging can really benefit you. So of course, everyone probably knows me. I'm Akil. I'm a growth success manager here at Klaviyo. But today I have a super duper special guest. His name is Phil. He's the founder and CEO of Arka. Phil, if you want to take a moment, introduce yourself to the folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, first of all, Akil, thanks for having me. Thank you to you and the whole Klaviyo team. Thanks for everyone from all over the world that's joining. This is so rad. Yeah, pardon the slide. This is just a quick little credibility creator. I've gone through YC 500 startups. I'm originally from the Bay Area. I moved to San Luis Obispo, studied industrial engineering at Cal Poly, sourced packaging at companies like Boeing, Silicon Valley startups like iCracked before it was acquired by Allstate. And then I started my own companies and found that there's got to be an easier way to make packaging online, which is why I started Arka.com.
So basically, folks, Phil is verified. Just want to let y'all know.
I'm verified, guys. There should be a blue check mark next to my name right there. Maybe that'll let people know what's up, but I like it.
There should be. Well, cool. So Phil, do you want to tell the folks a little bit more about Arka?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I can just prompt next slide whenever. So yeah. Arka, it's a excuse me, tech-enabled platform for businesses to get packaging online. And why should you go with us? So if you need branded packaging online, because I know a lot of people might start out with, let's say, free boxes from USPS. They might get unbranded boxes as well, which we can actually provide for you, and that's totally fine. No shame in that. But if you are ready to make the jump to branded packaging, with Arka, you can get as few as 10 boxes fully branded. You can get as few as 100 poly mailers fully branded. Boxes turn around within 2 weeks production time. We provide free samples when you place a larger order after the fact. As you can see in that photo, there's a nice tray to hold those products, and we call those inserts, these insert trays that can hold product. That's something that we've noticed a lot of people leaving the competition to come and work with Arka for, because if you want to ship a product online, you want to ship it safely without having a bunch of, let's say, tissue paper or butcher paper or whatever it is you might wrap your product with to send it out the door. There's no shame in that, but when you're ready to graduate, we can help with this as well. And definitely, last but not least, we're eco-friendly. Like Arka's FSC certified. We'll talk about that a little bit more in some other slides. But it's important to note that if eco-friendliness and sustainability, if that's a brand pillar for your business, we should definitely talk, because it is for us as well, and we want to pass that on to our customers and also our partners.
Dope.
Next slide.
All right, let's get into it.
Right.
So for today, just want to run through the agenda. So we're going to be talking about, one, why are we talking about e-commerce packaging in the first place? We'll talk through marketplaces versus owned stores, supply chain and sustainability trends, and then we'll tie it all together in terms of enhancing your marketing strategy. And then Phil's going to take it away with why custom packaging matters, and creating memorable unboxing experiences. And then we'll talk through a few marketing strategies that you can use when it comes to packaging to increase your brand awareness. And then finally, we have a little surprise at the end, if you will, that will probably come out in the next week or two, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. And then obviously at the end, it's a time for Q&A. Please take advantage of this moment if you have just general questions around packaging. Phil is here as a resource in this hour, so definitely take advantage of it.
Right on.
So why are we talking about e-commerce packaging? So since COVID increased e-commerce adoption, there have actually been several themes that I think have been given legs to run. And several of them actually favor entrepreneurs and small businesses, and some actually favor major marketplace retailers. And the major themes that I like to think about are going to be fulfillment, personalization, and custom experiences. And you'll see how all three of these tie into custom packaging. But when we look at the data, it paints a promising picture for storefront owners. So really the key bullet for me is going to be bullet number 2. 80% of consumers are loyal to brands, and 57% are heavily influenced by personal experiences and communication. So like you, I have a ton of questions about this. So one, what does this mean? How can brands generate brand loyalty? And what exactly are those personal experiences that customers are actually looking for? Now, when we actually think about marketplaces, we can start to see kind of where some of the challenges are arising. The disadvantage of owned storefronts versus marketplaces all essentially comes down to scale. When buyers are shopping, they start out searching for a solution to a problem instead of actually searching for a brand. And the majority of searches actually start on Amazon as compared to Google, where SEO still does matter. And it's a crazy stat to think that like 70% of searches on Amazon start without a brand. So what that essentially means is that consumers they don't know your brand or anything like that. If they have heard about it, those are essentially the times where you're going to get a direct search. But oftentimes consumers have an issue, they have a problem, and they're going to go search for what they think is that product that's going to solve it. And then that's where your brand essentially comes into play. To compound the buyer search habits, their expectations have increased when it comes to shipping. And like many of you who experienced last year of the kind of shipping debacles that we saw with supply chain overload, especially when we think about kind of March to April, the general reason for that is Q1, we saw about 10 years of growth within e-commerce within that first quarter. And obviously, when you have that amount of growth, you're going to have some growing pains with it. And shipping lanes became clogged. And then when we think about that compounding effect, when we got to holiday season, we actually saw UPS and FedEx raise rates just because of the volume of products that they were handling through their shipping lanes. And so when we think about kind of when it comes to shipping, 64% of consumers actually want their orders shipped free, and 67% of consumers expect same, next, or 2-day delivery. And this is basically what we call the Amazon effect. This is where a large company has the ability to change customer expectations to those that create an unfair advantage for many brands. And in general, it's hard to compete with Amazon and other major retailers, especially when we think about the amount of spending that occurred on the top 100 online marketplaces last year. And to kind of put more things into perspective, e-commerce is set to grow at a pace of about 17% year over year. So kind of my question for everyone is, where do you think the lion's share of growth is going to go? ultimately is going to be marketplaces, but we have seen a tremendous push of own storefronts. When we think about holiday season, Shopify for the first time, just Shopify alone, actually outpaced Amazon third-party sellers for the first time ever. So there's been a huge traction of growth of consumers actually looking for direct brands to support, rather than a lot of the larger corporate giants that we've become accustomed to shopping with. Now, to kind of highlight how steep the competition is, Amazon is actually investing in technology to deliver items faster than before. And I know this kind of sounds like I'm like continually harping on Amazon, but Amazon, I think, is probably kind of the best example to use. Obviously, there are other e-commerce giants that have the ability to scale. But with Amazon, I really think they set the stage for a lot of what retail does, whether it's online or brick and mortar. And so Amazon's actually leveraging AI and machine learning robotics to actually transform how they're thinking about the warehousing industry. And what this means is Amazon is essentially figuring out how to actually deliver items quicker and quicker and quicker, consistently changing the customer expectations. And one of the things that I really wanted to highlight is when it comes to the advantage of fulfillment in terms of impacting brand loyalty. If we actually look at the chart here, 3 of the top 10 reasons customers shop at Amazon is shipping related. So number 1, obviously fast and free shipping, easy returns process, which I think that's a conversation that we can all have another day. And then proactive communication during delivery. That piece might be a little overlooked, but it's super important to communicate and be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to dealing with shipping delays and whatnot. Now, in 2020, something unexpected did happen. The world came to a pause. And in that pause, consumers thought about what was actually super important to them. And 2 of the trends that really came out were sustainability and broader ESG impacts. Here, large retailers still have an advantage just thinking about scale. They also have the greatest impact on sustainability fulfillment practices. But that's actually where they kind of have a disadvantage. It's because they're so large. It actually takes time for them to implement a lot of these changes versus where SMBs actually have the advantage. Now, let's kind of take a step back and start to piece a lot of this information together. So, earlier we said that over 50% of consumers wanted to buy directly from brands. In addition to that, over 50% want custom experiences. And now adding sustainability into the fold, 72% of consumers want brands to use sustainable packaging. To also look at this and put this into perspective, you also have governments who are implementing emissions reduction laws and goals for the foreseeable future. And those laws are actually going to impact SMBs who actually aren't actively thinking about how to pivot to a sustainable packaging or renewable, reducing, reusing the type of material that they use for their actual products. It's actually going to create a ripple effect that a lot of businesses aren't necessarily thinking about. Now, does this mean you have to take margin hits when it comes to pivoting to sustainable packaging? Not exactly. In the last slide, actually, something that I meant to highlight was about 50% of people expressed a willingness to pay more for environmentally friendly products or services.
Huge.
Yeah, that's big time. And something that we can see is over time, going back kind of the last 7 years, we've actually seen the growth in sustainable product sales in the US consistently increase over time. And at this year, we're looking at about $150 billion in potential forecasted sales for sustainable products in the US. So you might be wondering, what does this all have to do with marketing? And the answer is it actually has everything to do with marketing. As brands, we are concerned with generating brand awareness, brand loyalty. But essentially the question is, how do we create that? What are some innovative ways that we can kind of outsmart our competition and do things that they aren't doing to really wow our customers? And ultimately, when we think about marketing within the customer lifecycle, we really miss a key moment in that lifecycle that actually has a lot more weight, I think, than any other part of the cycle. We miss out on the opportunity to wow customers on the delivery step. And it's a key part of the life cycle. And typically at the end of the funnel, most people put advocate and repeat in terms of how the customer life cycle is supposed to go. But I actually don't think that's how it works. I personally think that consumers go back into a consideration phase where they actually weigh each element of the life cycle. And let's take a step back and go back to delivery, because that's actually the part of the customer lifecycle that is most out of our control to some degree. What we can control is that unboxing experience, and what that can do for us when we think about UGC, retaining customers, and even growing our email list. And to kind of, I guess, put this slide in, I guess, kind of a 2-sentence summation, when we think about brand loyalty, it's actually kind of the culmination of all the events within the customer lifecycle. So going from the awareness phase, going to consideration, customers will basically go through that personal checklist that they have to determine whether or not they can trust to do business with you. When they actually make the decision to purchase, they're going through that personal checklist again because they want to make sure that you're going to deliver on that experience. But when we get to delivery, I mean, going back to what our customers are starting to expect from us, fast, free shipping, no damage products, easy returns process, no missing parts, easy unboxing experience. And then what I really hope that everyone gets today is that one more thing that Phil's going to cover in this next section. So I'm going to turn it over to Phil. Take it away, brother.
Woo, sweet. All right, let's see. Cool. So benefits of custom packaging, right? Like we talked a little bit about brand loyalty up until this point. With custom packaging and having consumers being loyal to your brand, custom packaging helps increase that customer retention, the customer loyalty, brand advocacy. Creating that memorable unboxing experience is a part of that culmination of the customer journey that allows that customer to be a brand advocate, right? Having that brand being able to showcase the packaging that you were able to send them with the product that they purchased from you is something that is a physical form of like user interaction, if you think about it, right? If you don't have a storefront, or even if you do have a storefront, that package essentially acts as a part of that in-store experience or as a substitute of that in-store experience, because you're bringing that in-store experience to their doorstep, right? So take advantage of that. That's an investment for you. That's an investment for your business. Everyone loves to share photos of something that looks nice. And if you're able to accomplish that, maybe you can even reward your customers for doing so. Going back on that piece about 50% of folks being more likely to purchase something when it's eco-friendly, that is huge. That can also tie into your packaging, of course. So we're getting some questions, I noticed. Rachel Sokolowski, thank you for the questions about compostable mailers and eco-friendliness. So there's our FSC certification right there. Reduces carbon footprint. Our products are 100% recyclable. Our craft boxes are sidewalk compostable. So take all of that into account when you are setting up your supply chain as a part of what you'll ultimately deliver to your customers and the experiences that they'll have. Next slide, please. So why custom packaging mailers? So if you think of it this way, these 4 different statistics were taken from a consumer behavior report from .com distribution, where they essentially looked at hundreds of different folks that are buying from different stores, found out what packaging can mean to those clients that are purchasing from merchants like the folks that are listening in on this webinar. So if you look at premium packaging, these are all very, very baseline psychological characteristics that you might find with a product that we've all been guilty of, right? So if a product comes in a premium package versus an identical product in a not so premium package, obviously someone can opt for that other product. That branded package can make your product even seem more upscale. Like we've seen folks drop ship or create maybe not the most expensive product in the world, but if you dress it up nicely, it's going to add some cachet to the product that you're actually selling them. In the same sense, like the inverse of that is totally plausible, right? If you got like a Rolex watch in a plain brown box with some tissue paper, you might think it's a fake. The same goes when you have the inverse of that in something that's nicely branded. It shows that you put in effort, and effort really is the takeaway here. If it shows that you put effort into this, it doesn't have to be the shiniest object in the world. It doesn't have to have foil print and embossed lettering or anything crazy like that. As long as it reflects your brand and it shows that you put time into this and effort, that's huge. Going to that bottom left quadrant, 61% branded packaging dealing with excitement. That's what we call the doorstep experience here at Arka. You come home and either in your mailroom or front desk or literally doorstep, you see that package. It has branding on the outside. You're immediately tying that to the product that you purchased. Like there's that excitement that's tied into the packaging itself. And then the last one is just kind of funny. It has to do with branding and buyer's remorse. 44% of folks are less likely to feel buyer's remorse if it came in a nice package. Like, go figure. But this is all going back to what I was saying, how there are clear like psychological effects, which some might think are, fluffy or like soft data, but in all reality, this is something that we look into subconsciously, in addition to all the hard facts that come along with people that actually care about something that's eco-friendly, care about something that's shareable because it has a nice branded look to it, so they're willing to post it online, say, look at this cool product that I got in this cool packaging that I received. All of this is taken into account in why custom packaging matters.
And Phil, you touched on a very interesting point, like thinking about like product verification. And when you mentioned that, like the first thing that came to mind was like resell like Nike sneakers. Like I'm not buying any type of Nike sneakers unless they actually come with the original box. And that just shows like how much that like brand of Nike matters.
So true.
Packaging is crazy.
So true. It's naked otherwise, right? Like it just seems out of place.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's such a great point. That's the stuff that helps them.
Cool. So let's talk about creating memorable unboxing experiences.
Right on. So we basically summed it up into 3 steps here. If we want to go through each one real quick. Artwork, right? So brand logos, vector files that are 300 DPI or higher. Don't worry yourself with that jargon for those of you that are not designers out there. It's just letting you know, hey, if you are working with someone, if you're big enough that you have an art department, or if you're doing this solo, or if you just hired someone off of Fiverr or Upwork to make the packaging design for you, or your store theme design for you, whatever artwork they have, just remember to ask them if they are worth what you are paying them for. Hey, I need these in vector format. All that really means is that any image that you take is going to be stretched and placed onto a box, right? So if you look at the images that you pull up on your phone or on your computer, that's not the actual size of the image itself. The image can actually scale with the size of the screen. Most websites work that way. And hopefully whatever designer you work with, especially for those of you that are working with someone that might be creating something for you one-off, please ask for vector files when it comes to your artwork. That's just a little bit of a tip to keep you guys safe, because many times we have folks come in and they request for custom packaging. They give us artwork that is not in vector format, and you don't want your packaging to show up pixelated. You want it to be beautiful when it's finally delivered.
Okay.
So some quick types of packaging. You can go over that very quickly. We have stock packaging for starters. I talked about this earlier when I said, hey, if you're just starting out, there's nothing wrong with having just like a blank mailer, shipper, carton, or poly mailer. They're affordable. You can use any carrier to send these out the door, and you can always add stamps or stickers to these. Next up, branded packaging, obviously something that we can move towards. And in the next slide, you'll see it's essentially the same as the unbranded packaging, but you can just get it branded. Very simple, right? You have your mailers, you have your shippers. We make sure that everything obviously is eco-friendly, FSC certified, recyclable, sidewalk compostable. Even some of our poly mailers are compostable if you're hitting quantities of 10K above for branded, or you can do as few as 500 unbranded. But the point we're trying to get across is there's so many options that you have. Don't try to over optimize for your first run or your next run or even the run after that. Just keep iterating on whatever it is that you want to create. Just get it out the door. For those of you that might be listening that might not even have shipped product yet, find something that works, get it out the door, have people fall in love with you and your brand first and foremost. The packaging is a part of that discussion, a part of that experience. But in the same sense that packaging won't make up for a product that might be not so good, even if you have just a very clean and conservatively packaged product, but you obviously spend so much time on your product, that in itself is a fine marriage as well. So please don't get stressed if you're not into the custom packaging world yet. And if you are, you can always start small. You can do as few as 10 boxes, as few as 100 polymailers.
So Phil, I kind of want to throw a curveball question at you.
Love it.
I was thinking about this kind of as a business owner, and one of the things as a business owner that I love is having someone order multiple items in one order. How do you think about branded packaging versus unbranded packaging when you have multiple items that need to fit into a particular package? How do you think about that?
Totally. That's such a great question, Nikhil. Well, so in one of the slides, we showed a tray. If y'all remember, you can have an insert tray that comes in a box, and they're essentially just cavities that you can put your product inside of, that it can fit nice and tight inside of that tray. It won't bang around during delivery. And just as importantly, when it arrives and someone opens up that package, boom, there's the product that they purchased right there, so nicely and neatly displayed, right? So something that customers, or should I say our partners that work with us do, is they might have a one-size-fits-many package, and then they'll just swap out the tray. Like clearly they'll have like a starter kit that can hold multiple products. They might have like a onesie, twosie tray for, single unit orders, multi-unit orders, any way that they can find and get some sort of analytics around, hey, what am I selling? What kind of bundles and combinations are my products coming in? Based on that data, I'm able to make the decision that will at least capture, let's say, 75% of orders with this tray. You'll probably get some rogue orders that are all over the place, but we can even create, first of all, on our end, we can create whatever you want. We can create it for the outliers. We can create it for the most common. But if you're on a budget, it's totally fine to have a catch-all experience for the package and then have multiple trays that fit most of the combinations that get purchased off your site.
Got it.
Super smart idea. Great question, man.
All right, accessories.
And then lastly, accessories. Like if you're super gung-ho about tissue paper, we forgive you and we will create it for you. That's totally fine. It's just that we really love the insert experience, and then extras, right? So what I was talking about earlier in terms of effort, a thank you card with a QR code, a discount offer to other products, promoting a loyalty program, product review requests, share on social requests. Even something as simple as a handwritten note, or working with one of these companies that will take your handwriting, you can type it out, and it will create like duplicates and duplicates and duplicates of your own handwriting, with your own signature in there. All of this just shows effort, right? Like let's just sit on the other side of the table for a second. We're all business owners here. We work at a business that sells product online, direct to consumer. We're in the e-commerce space one way or another. We're also buyers too, right? Like we're consumers. So just ask yourself, when was the last time you had a really good, memorable experience of purchasing something online or even in store? Is there a way to replicate that online? Take that into account. That essentially falls into the category of extras right here. And those extras can make all the difference between getting someone sharing your product, becoming a repeat buyer, an advocate in some sense or another, having a lifelong loyal partner to work with you in your business. Like, this is huge. So definitely take advantage of this, because these are all very low cost, low hanging fruit. Like having a piece of paper that you just like sign and say thanks so much. Like this was fulfilled with care. Great, very, very easy, very simple, and people that will resonate with people, especially if you are sincere. So put that sincerity and effort into your packaging, and I promise you will get rewarded tenfold.
Yeah, and Phil, you touched on a couple of things that I just kind of want to reiterate that I hope just doesn't go over people's heads. But totally. In a couple of slides before, you mentioned that 44% of people, if they have like a bad delivery experience, if they have like a branded package, they totally forget about that bad delivery experience. So totally. This is part of like customer service, customer support, where you're actually being proactive and not necessarily using manpower, but actually using your own brand to kind of appease the customer's pain points. I thought that was really key.
Yeah, guys, Akil's dropping knowledge right there. Please take that into consideration, because some parts of the experience you can't control, and the things that you can control, put in that effort so that your customers know that you care about them, and ultimately your customers, when knowing that, they will come back. Yeah,
100%. And the last thing that I think is just super important, that is so underutilized, is QR codes.
Totally.
So I hope, like, if everyone was able to kind of like go out and experience kind of like the restaurant scene in COVID.
Exactly. Come back.
QR codes were used instead of menus. And how was that experience? What happened with that? You scanned that QR code, you went to the website, saw the menu, that was your experience. So put this into perspective. Totally. Let's say it's holiday season. The majority of your buyers are actually gifters. So you actually don't have the correct information for the person who is actually a fan of your brand potentially. So with the QR code, what you can do is actually use that. Let's say, for example, let's take a couple step backs. So let's say, for example, it's holiday season, buyer went on your website, they purchase an item. You make sure that you note that, one, it's a gifter. So now you can determine the difference between who's the gifter and who's actually the buyer. With the extras that Phil's talking about, the QR code to the actual giftee, if you have that and there's a discount, or maybe there's some extra incentive that you can get them to use that QR code and actually gather their email address, you can actually denote that that person is the giftee. And now you're entering that person into your own marketing cycle. And now your goal is to get that person to become a repeat buyer, not the gifter. And I think a lot of people are going to miss out on that. And that's just for e-commerce. If you're a brick and mortar retailer as well, you can still utilize QR codes to gather email addresses at your brick and mortar locations. And to be honest, I can totally see QR codes taking off in like the next 5-10 years when you think about going to grocery stores and all that nutrition information is on the QR code, all the pricing information is on QR codes. You can literally get crazy with QR codes. I mean, let's say you're, brick and mortar place, you have products that go out of stock. Maybe you have a QR code that will let people know when the product's back in stock, et cetera, et cetera. Like you can literally take this and run with it. So
totally. We can print the QR codes directly in the box as well. Someone can open up a box, QR codes right there, boom. They can scan it. It could take them to all your socials. It could, like you say, it could identify who the gifter was. It's literally whatever you want. Like you can just have that printed and it'll just take them to whatever experience that you create for that customer. So do it. Like it's so simple. It's not like it costs extra to have that QR code printed. If you already have some sort of printing on that side of the box, throw it in.
Mm-hmm. And folks, we have a course that we'll be dropping at the end of the presentation on how to actually use QR codes within Klaviyo. So this is the alley-oop. This is the easiest softball pitch I can give you in terms of using this strategy. So definitely take advantage of it. But before we move on, there are honestly so many gems on this slide that I'm just having fun just even thinking about ideas. So like one of the biggest things that I've seen, especially when it comes to TikTok, YouTube, is unboxing videos. And a lot of that, when we think about sharing on social and thinking about generating user-generated content, this is honestly probably one of the easiest wins. I know when I got my iPhone this past November, one of the things I did was I actually filmed myself taking the iPhone out of the box. That's a super easy video for customers to do and just upload online. And that honestly generates a ton of brand awareness and actually gives people the ability to see what that experience is like. And ultimately, what ends up happening is you have people who want that experience as well, or you have people who want to gift that experience as well. So being able to kind of, have a custom branded boxing experience is going to be key when we think about how do we generate user-generated content on social and different things like that.
Totally. I love it. Yeah, guys, take a little mental screenshot of this right here, or an actual screenshot if you'd like. But as I believe we mentioned at the beginning, a copy of this will be available, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Right on.
Oh, one more thing. So when it comes to promoting loyalty programs, one of the coolest things that you can actually do is have a custom branded box for VIPs. Like, this is a
Totally.
VIP only box. Like, just think about that.
Absolutely. I mean, we can print as few as 10 boxes. We've had Google, Mattel, Yelp, Sony, like a lot of larger companies that maybe in their core supply chain, they're not able to get this short run, just 10, just a few hundred, just a few thousand in many cases. And everyone that I just mentioned, for them, it was actually a few thousand that they needed. That was their small run. That's something that they use for a VIP program. Like, for example, when the Pixel C came out, when Google released the product, they had us create a specialty box with the Pixel C for like 100 of their executives. This was their version of like a VIP package that was spread internally at their company. But there's so many other folks that come to us, they're like, hey, we just have a quick 10 boxes that we need to be made, 50 boxes, 100 boxes that need to be made for a VIP program. Can you please quickly turn this around? Like, they didn't want to have to pay for like the tooling and the print plates that come with like a full production packaging run. We were able to hook it up, and it was super beneficial for their company. So absolutely, I mean, if you can take advantage of that, or even in some cases, some people might have like a first time buyer box versus like the second time it might come in a poly mailer from then on out. But the first box might be a kit that they send out the door. Whatever the case, either way, you guys can get creative and do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, quick recap.
That's just a quick recap. I think we've hammered it in, guys. Like, obviously, custom branding, it boosts all of the above: retention rates, customer loyalty, brand awareness, brand advocates.
Mm-hmm.
So invest in your packaging.
Yeah, 100%. And so I was talking to Phil last week, and Phil had a really, really dope idea. And honestly, I hope everyone takes advantage of this. But Phil, do you want to share?
Yeah, no, real quick, guys. Yeah. Like, okay. So if this was playing in the background for any period of your morning or afternoon, wherever you are, this is the time. Take a second, stop what you're doing, just listen real quick, okay? So if you are proud of your package, or if you're not proud of your package and you want suggestions, critiques, whatever, we are taking submission requests to unbox your product and your product packaging live. So you can please email growth@klaviyo.com if you want to send pictures of like, hey, here's what it looks like. What do you think? Is this something I could submit to the unboxing request? Then we will follow up with an address. You can actually send your product to that address. We will unbox live. We will get it in front of eyeballs for people to see your product first and foremost. Hopefully you love the free advertising. But what comes with that, and what's most important, is not only will you be learning about how you can better create an unboxing experience for your business, but everyone else who's listening in, like, you're going to be helping so many other people grow their brands and do a better job when it comes to unboxing their products. And by unboxing, I don't literally mean boxes. Like, if you have a bag, we can show the unbagging experience, unboxing experience. It all just goes under the same title. But depending on what comes in that package, whether it's the inserts, whether it's like stale inventory, to actually like help people try out different products that you might have, whatever the case might be, please email growth@klaviyo.com. You will put in the subject packaging submission live training, and we will unbox your product live and tell you more about what you can do better. We might even give it a rating if you want. And this way other people can learn how to do a great job, and you yourself can maybe even improve on your unboxing experience for your customers as well. I'm excited about this. This is gonna be so awesome. Like, this is gonna be sweet. I'm so for everyone who's listening, I'm really excited to see what you guys send our way, so we can unbox those live. Like, this is going to be great.
Yeah, and folks, this doesn't just help you from a marketing perspective, right? Like, we're also thinking about your bottom line when it comes to profit, right? There are a ton of packages or just orders that have to deal with damage and defect or returns for whatever reason, XYZ. This, just looking at packaging in general, cuts down the costs on, saving you from product damages and also saving you from the potentially overpacking or even underpacking. So this is a really, really dope opportunity, and I really hope everyone takes advantage of this. I'm very excited to see what comes through. So yes.
This is gonna be sweet. I'm so excited.
I am too. It's gonna be dope.
Rachel asked, so do we send you a video of unboxing something we packed? You would actually send us the box itself. We will unbox it for you. You will just send us a package. Just while we're on the topic, I wanted to throw that out. Yep. Cool.
All right. So it's that time, wrap up and Q&A. But before we do, we got some homework. I hope everyone can do this. If not, no worries. If you have more questions about it, definitely email growth@klaviyo.com or the good folks at Arka. I'll show their email address in a couple of slides. But first things first, we talked about using QR codes to gather subscribers. We're going to drop that Academy course in the chat right now. So everyone, please take a moment to check that out whenever you have some time. It's super quick. It's only like 17 minutes long. But from the ideas that we talked about today, I mean, that 17 minutes can be X amount of dollars if you execute on that. And so with that, the other thing with using the QR codes is, one, you're going to want to have a dedicated sign-up form, which that'll be walked through whenever you do the QR code course. Generate one QR code, and then map out the welcome series or flow. So in the course, we talk about actually creating two separate experiences for folks who either sign up with your welcome series letter on your website versus folks who actually sign up using the QR code. And then obviously visit arka.com and explore sustainable custom packaging solutions. I really hope everyone absorbed the knowledge that Phil dropped today. And then finally, if you want strategic advice on creating the QR codes or setting up those particular flows for those folks coming in through QR codes, hit up growth@klaviyo.com.
Awesome.
And lastly, second to last, check us out. All of our social links, all of Arka's links were also dropped in the chat. Tomorrow, so if we don't get through everyone's question today, everyone please follow us on Twitter and Arka on Twitter. Tomorrow at noon Eastern, we're going to be doing a Twitter Spaces, rehashing a lot of the information that we talked about today, but also giving you guys some additional gems and having some folks join the party as well who also have some expertise within the packaging space. So definitely take a moment, follow those social channels. You won't want to miss tomorrow as well. And then finally, if you have questions about anything packaging related, hit up Arka at support@arka.com.
Awesome.
And with that, turn it over to Taylor. Taylor's been scoping out some questions for us to answer. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, thank you guys both. This was such a great session and a lot of really good questions. I'll try and bundle a few together. And Phil, we'll start with you. There's been a lot of questions about the kind of the price or like cost of packaging to ROI that you might get on it. And I'm going to try and bundle these in as obviously custom packaging is going to cost more than basic packaging. Can you speak at all to like how customers would potentially weigh the cost of, the increased cost of using more customized packaging to potentially what they could expect by paying something a little bit more than some of the basic packaging?
Totally. I mean, obviously it's going to vary from a case-to-case basis, but when it comes to having that brand advocacy, brand loyalty, someone coming back, you might want to just like simply weigh it, weigh it in the sense of like, okay, I spent X% on packaging to get Y dollars, or I spent X dollars on my packaging or cents on my packaging to get Y dollars in this customer coming and purchasing my product. But maybe if you were to multiply that customer by 3 because they came back so many times and amortize that into your cost of like custom packaging now that they are a brand advocate, and then spreading the news to the other customers that might be coming back, and having that network effect happen versus just this plain brown box that someone might have tried out, was not very much inspired, and then went away. I think it's just a matter of having you think a bit bigger as a merchant in terms of like what you want to do, like what is the scope of your business, how much do you want to scale? Because branded packaging is becoming table stakes, right? Like in the world of the Amazon effect, where you look at everything that they're able to accomplish, and then with your business, like what are some low-hanging fruits for you to compete? Well, custom packaging is definitely way up there on the list of things that could be done today to get you ahead of everyone else.
Awesome.
So that's my thinking in that regard.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then just to confirm too, if people do have pricing questions, is support@arka.com the best way to reach out? Okay. Yep. And for everybody who asks questions on that, obviously that's great that you're considering. So definitely reach out. I'm sure that Phil and his team are going to be happy to answer any pricing related questions and dive a little deeper. And now I'm going to start with some of the most upvoted questions. This one is from Chris. And the question is, are you worried about theft with brand packaging? There are a few other questions like this.
Easy one. Inside branded packaging only.
Nice. Yeah.
Done. Like I actually saw someone right in there too. We have a lot of folks that might ship discrete products. Maybe it's just something that you don't want your neighbors to see that you're buying. That's totally fine. No judgment. And I don't mean something overly, I guess, above a PG-13 rating. I just might mean like, oh, somebody is maybe buying something for like acne, or they're buying something for hair loss, or just something private, right? Like they just want to keep things discreet. So forget about the theft part for a second. There are businesses out there that very much so want to keep the purchasing and selling, ultimately the purchasing from the client side, things completely discreet. And what we do for that is just inside print only. That's totally possible. It's not any more expensive than outside print only. And that still gives you the good unboxing experience. Maybe you won't have the doorstep experience, but even then you probably maybe will, because it's a secret that nobody else knows. You know what that product is, nobody else does. And then you go in and you open it up and you have this beautiful branded experience. So there's still that possibility.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I think this, it ties pretty closely to a lot of the questions. So thanks, Philip. Another question here, this one from Mary, for branded packaging, a box or a bag, are those able to ship as is? Are those able to ship securely as is, or do you have the option of putting them inside of an outer brown box or unbranded packaging?
All of our packaging is optimized for e-commerce, so there will be no need for an additional package.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
So the mailer boxes are 32 ECT, which just stands for 32 edge crush test. It has to do with stacking weight, like how many other weighed products can you stack on top of this package when it's being sent out the door. If you're using like a FedEx or any shipping carrier, really, like boxes are stacked on top of each other. There needs to be a certain edge crush test. So it's the strongest material that's also the lightest to ship combination, which makes it optimal for e-commerce. There's thicker materials you can use out there. For example, our shippers are B-flute, and a lot of wine companies, beverage companies use that when they have glass products, which are a bit heavier, and they need to protect those. So whatever you are shipping and you want to purchase packaging from Arka, if you're letting us know, hey, this is what I want my setup to be, we will ensure that your product gets shipped safely, and that is optimized for e-commerce, no problem.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much, Philip. And another question, this one from Wayne, one that you had kind of answered, and then a follow-up question as well. But, we're a retail store that sells hundreds of different brands. What can we do for the unboxing experience? Our customers don't want a branded shipping box. They want a discrete brown box. But the question wasn't necessarily about making the boxes, more what can be done for that internal experience when there might be multiple brands inside of a box.
Oh, absolutely. I think the insert tray is one of the best things that you can do. That's something that I've honestly been pushing for people to do, even if they don't even have any sort of branding done yet. Just imagine this, I bought this Yeti, right? If this just came in a plain brown box, but there was this really clean insert tray that it was laying inside of when I open it up, that in itself is just a great experience. And for all these folks out there that purchase products where they're branding the outside to death. Like, it's amazing. It's an absolute circus of colors and branding experience. And then they open it up, and this is like rattling around inside. It just completely took away from all the effort they put on the outside. So when it comes to like different brands on the inside, you can actually print on the trays, which is really cool. So you can have, you know, brand A have an outline of their store theme, store color for that product, have another outline on the tray cavity for this other product. There's so much you can do. And that's just off of, you know, improvised spitballing, but there's a ton you can do, from the extras slide that we talked about, all the way to just like branding the insert and like allocating the actual design of each respective brand to the respective tray that the product sits inside of.
Awesome. Thanks, Philip. And then kind of two from Amanda here, one of which you already answered, but I think it's valuable for the group to hear, was what percentage of revenue should you spend on packaging? And I think, Philip, you responded with up to 12% is kind of what you've seen, obviously being an expert in the industry. And one of the follow-up questions to that, I think, which is a great question, Amanda, is what are some of the reasonable expectations for decreasing packaging costs as you scale and you can start to order in larger quantities? Do you see that relationship or that percentage of total cost start to decrease over time?
Huge, huge. You can actually see that on Arka.com. If you go to all products, pick a box, you'll see the price of 10, and then you'll see the price of 1,000. It goes down drastically. So absolutely, with volume comes better per unit pricing. Totally.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And let's see here. So maybe time for one or two more questions. I have one here from John Smith is, what is the advantage of buying US sourced packaging under the impression that imported is much cheaper?
Yeah, totally. I can speak to the standard of FSC certification, eco-friendliness, and sustainability that's US based. And this isn't a generalization that I want to make for some overseas suppliers, particularly in Asia, but there are some bad actors there that might falsely claim that they have a certain certification. But I would encourage you to actually check out the FSC website and make sure that their company is actually listed. So, I mean, sorry, high level is like, one, the eco-friendliness aspect. You have difficulty verifying that outside of US jurisdiction. I just can't speak to that. I've gone to some websites that, I've had some businesses reach out to me to want to be my overseas supplier. They're saying, hey, if you want to start charging your company or charging the partners that come to purchase from you less, and we can be your overseas supplier, here's more information about this. I did some reference checks, and some of the things that they said were false. I'm not the only one to say this. I have heard this from other businesses as well that ended up switching to us ultimately, but that's just for US based. On top of that, there's also just the carbon footprint of having to freight something over. There's the headache of having to deal with customs. That list goes on and on and on. But as we saw, we have such a wonderful audience here and people from all over the world. So that might change depending on where you are. But for Arka, everything is made in North America. And the reason why I say that is because 90% of our production is done in the United States. We have 10% production in Canada as well. So we say made in North America, but most of it, depending on where you are, it's likely that it's made in the USA.
Awesome. All right. And then, so for the last question here, and as Akil mentioned, if we don't get to any questions, please feel free to email either support@arka.com for any Arka related questions, or growth@klaviyo.com for any strategic guidance on the topics we covered here. This is one that you already answered, Philip, but I thought it was just a great question by Rachel, and maybe you can expand upon it lightly, is, do you see a shift supporting a willingness to spend on sustainability from the consumer, or is it just their preference? Like, they want something sustainable, but they're not quite ready to pay an extra, 10 to 15%, but they just want to like it? Or are we seeing people are willing, or customers are willing to spend more on sustainable products and packaging?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Akil did a great job touching on that too, when he was mentioning about the 50% likelihood of flipping towards something that's eco-friendly versus not, and the willingness to spend that. We're seeing this trend grow, and that has to do with age, interestingly enough. First of all, Generation Z as an entire population of people, that demographic is 100% on board with sustainability and eco-friendly. Like, you won't catch any of those kids, if you want to call them that, being willing to purchase something if they even hear a hint of something being, not pro environment. So the short answer is yes. It'll of course depend on your age demographic, but me personally, I'm on board for that. And maybe that's just like my background. I think everyone at Klaviyo and the speakers like yourselves are definitely on board for that too. I mean, I don't think you guys are in your early 20s anymore or teenagers, but like what I'm saying is that group tomorrow, they're going to be the buyers of everything. And if you're in it for the long haul with your business, then you better start now, because today it may just sound like a trend. Tomorrow it's going to be a prerequisite to make a sale. So the tools are out there. Please capitalize on it. Invest. It's for a good cause.
Yeah, that's
awesome. Just to kind of follow up with that question, some people may not necessarily be ready to switch towards sustainable packaging right now. What are some things that brands can do to start to think about sustainability within their supply chain?
Sure. Less packaging. I know that sounds like I'm, losing my own lunch in saying that, but like less packaging. So one certification we got is from Amazon. It has to do with SIOC, ships in its own container. Excuse me. So essentially what that means is, instead of having a product that goes in a package that goes in another package that has a bunch of tissue paper and all that other trash that goes inside, remember that analogy I made for the Yeti where it's just this like clean tray that holds your product, you're done. That's less waste, thus less product. Thus, by the way, less fulfillment costs, because you're having less people touch your actual boxing experience that eventually gets shipped out the door. So less packaging equals less waste, equals less cost as well. So in that regard, it's something that you can invest in. But by the way, for our boxes, FSC certification for paper is a fairly straightforward thing to do, and it's actually not even more expensive. Like apples to apples, our FSC certified boxes are less expensive than a lot of players out there that do the same exact box that isn't FSC certified. It's something that I think the paper industry in general, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I think it's something that they've recognized, and down to the level of the mills, they are making those changes so that it is easier for more businesses to have FSC certification when they sell their packaging paper products. So it's becoming more commonplace because, like I said, it's going to become a prerequisite to make a sale. So I think more and more people are coming on board, and fortunately, it's becoming more easy to have that stamp of approval when it comes to eco-friendliness. Like I'm glad to see that. I don't want to just say I'm the only one that's certified. Arka is the only one. I hope everyone gets that certification. Like it's what's best. It's what's best for everyone. It's becoming table stakes.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, Akil, I'm going to pass it back over to you. Thank you both very much for answering the questions, and I'll let you close this out.
Thank you.
Everyone, thanks for joining. Phil, really appreciate you for dropping the gems that you did today. I hope everyone that attended or was unable to attend that will see the recording really gets a ton of value out of this. Again, please hit up Phil and Arka for all of your sustainable packaging solutions. And Phil, I'll turn it over to you for last words.
Yeah. First off, thanks for having me. To everyone listening, obviously we bang the drum of eco-friendliness as super important, but most importantly, just keep iterating. If you want your business to succeed, I think that counts for everything, whether it's you're using the tools that Klaviyo provides to iterate on those marketing efforts, or the packaging that we're able to provide for your product itself. Just keep iterating. You'll get there eventually if you haven't already. So thank you, and thank you for listening.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. See you guys tomorrow. Spaces.
Bye. Yeah, thank you.